about fears. Let's talk about love. Yeah, I got fears, but I ain't got no love.
Okay, welcome back. Let's jump right into the content. Today I want to talk about a very controversial case that happened on November 22nd, 2012. And it invokes your right for the Castle Doctrine, which means you're safe in your own home from any intruders, anybody coming in. Although I certainly agree with that doctrine, there are some limitations to it. In this case, I think we'll show you what those limitations are. So let's break down the content of this. You have two victims, Haile Kifer, who is 18 years old, female, and a male, which is her cousin, Nicholas Brady, who is 17 years old. These two individuals on Thanksgiving Day 2012, at least one of them, Nicholas, decides he's going to break into the home of 64-year-old Byron Smith. Byron Smith lives alone. He's retired, and he, by all appearances, seems to be just a victim who's getting burglarized. Now, it seems like Nicholas Brady and Haile Kifer both come from good homes. But if you were to look into Nicholas's background, you would find that he is a thief. And he had burglarized places even the night before this one occurred. And the victim here, the victim in the burglary, 64-year-old Byron Smith, stated that his house had been burglarized at least a dozen times prior to this day. Now, police checked into that and they only found a couple times. But let's get into the story. So, Byron Smith says, you know what? I'm tired of being burglarized. And I have surveillance videos set up. Maybe the police aren't doing their job. Whatever it is, I'm going to take matters into my own hands. And sometimes when you do that, that is not good. However, sometimes it is necessary. And I'm not going to say specifically here yet. You'll get my opinion at the end. But he's tired of being burglarized. So what he does at age 64 is he takes his vehicle and parks it down at his neighbor's home. Now, why does he do that? Well, to me, this is the first part of a premeditated act. Might not be premeditated murder. We're not there yet. But he's doing this for a reason. And it's almost like an entrapment. He is trying to draw these burglars into his house. And by him parking his vehicle away from the house, the potential burglar will say, hey, you know what? Nobody's home here. Let's go. Well, that's what happens. So he parks his vehicle down at the end of the driveway, down by the neighbors. He walks back up to his house, turns on his surveillance videos. He takes a position down in his basement, and he sits on a chair with a weapon, in this case a gun. And he waits. He doesn't have to wait long when he hears glass break in his house. And this is the middle of the day, and it's caught on surveillance camera. Nicholas Brady, age 17, has decided to break into this home. Now, on previous burglaries to Mr. Byron Smith's home, he has lost his father's POW watch, which reminds me of that scene in Pulp Fiction with Christopher Walken. So he hit it. I just love that part. But sentimental value of that is priceless. He's also lost $4,000 cash. So after the glass breaks, he still sits in that chair for 10 minutes. Now, how do we know it's 10 minutes? Well, Mr. Byron Smith decided he is going to audio record this endeavor. Now, you can imagine so far this is not going to end well for somebody. He's had 10 or 15 minutes now since he's heard that glass break to call police. Right? He doesn't have to confront the burglar. It's his house. He has no duty to retreat. However, he could, within 10 or 15 minutes, so far, have called police. But he chooses not to. He takes his position on his chair and waits till he hears Nicholas Brady walk down the steps. And at that point in time, he shoots him twice on the steps. This is very important. After he's shot and falls down the steps, this is all audio recorded. It's very chilling if you listen to it. Mr. Byron Smith, age 64, then walks up and shoots 17-year-old Nicholas Brady in the head as he lays on the floor. So what he does next is he places, he's talking. He's taunting the dead body of Nicholas Brady. He puts him in a tarp and he drags him into another room. Now why? Does Byron Smith know that there's somebody else still out in the car waiting? 18-year-old Haile Kifer, who's waiting on her cousin to come back from burglarizing his house. Does she know that he's in there burglarizing it? My guess would be yes. Yet, maybe not. Maybe he didn't tell her. But they seem to be close. So, but it's because you're close doesn't mean you share everything, right? So maybe, but the point is, Mr. Byron Smith has drugged that body of Nicholas Brady into another room. He's gone upstairs, doing whatever he's doing for, 10 or 15 more minutes. And he hears or sees Haile coming. He goes back and gets in his position, reloads, sits on the chair. You can hear Haile come in. She's kind of whispering, yelling for her cousin. Nick, where are you? Nick. She starts coming down the stairs. Boom. He shoots her. She says, "Oh my God, oh my God." She's still alive. Falls down the steps. He goes over, shoots her multiple times while calling her multiple names. She seems to still be alive. He drags her into and places her next to Nicholas's body where she seems to still be alive, and then he gives her the coup de grace, shoots her in the head, and finishes her off. So, he doesn't call police, but he doesn't bury the bodies. He doesn't try to get rid of evidence. But he waits until the next day, and then he calls police. And when he is interviewed, he's asked, "Why are you waiting the next day and going upstairs and sleeping with two dead bodies?" He said he didn't want to disturb police on Thanksgiving. Okay. In 2014, so 2 years later, April 29th, he is found guilty of 2 counts of premeditated murder. First degree. Do I agree with this? Well, this is one that I pondered for a while. Okay? But I do end up agreeing with the decision. He was sentenced to life in prison. Now, why is this a controversy? Well, because especially the old timers, old folks, hey, they got what they deserved. I watched interviews with Haile and Nicholas's family. And I couldn't help but feel for them. You know, listen, the family, you can't hate the family for something that somebody else does. I still have empathy for that family. Yet, you could say, hey, if Haile and Nicholas's actions weren't as such, they would still be alive. And that is very true. And you could say that about a lot of homicides. Do I believe in the Castle Doctrine? Absolutely, 100%. If someone broke into my home, I would certainly defend it with some furious vengeance and vigor, with everything in my being and everything in my power. And if that included me killing somebody, I would not hesitate and have no, I won't say remorse. Remorse could show later, certainly, but I would have no problem with doing that. Yet, I don't know, and people don't know unless they're in that situation. Now, Mr. Smith certainly had some premeditated action. Two things stick out to me. Moving the vehicle down there, out of his driveway. And the reason you do that is to invite the burglars in. You're ready for war. You want it to come to you. Okay? And you have no duty to retreat in your own home. That's a fact. He reloads his weapon in order to kill Haile. He had significant amount of time in order to call police. Or, some people would say, leave the house. He has no duty to leave his house. He has no obligation to leave his house. Yet, he takes out the threat, the male, as he comes down the steps. He shoots him. I don't know where he shot him. It was enough to drop him. He shot him twice on the steps. If he is incapacitated, or you can keep the weapon on him and call police, that is the way it should be done. Yet, you're not in that situation. Your heartbeat's not going a mile a minute. Okay? Don't know where he was shot. Maybe Nicholas could have got up and he's 64 years old. Could have taken him out. It just seems excessive to me that he shoots him in the head. Yet, he has every right to. As sick as that is maybe to some, and certainly to the family, I know the family thinks that it's wrong. And then you go upstairs for 10, 15 minutes. Who knows what you're doing? Maybe you're eating a sandwich. And here comes victim number 2, a female. You're going to go back downstairs, reload. She comes down and you shoot her multiple times. All while you're spewing profanities at her. Now, where does this fall on the GSR? What kind of murder is this? Greed, sex, or revenge? It's clearly revenge for me. It's rage. Rage falls under revenge. You are angry that these people are breaking into your home. And you, in your mind, are going to teach them a lesson. Maybe that's a little bit of greed too, right? I can't say that he's right or wrong. I can't say. I will say I agree with the verdict. He could have stopped after he injured them, especially the female. She was alive for a longer period of time. He drags her and ends up shooting her and killing her. I mean, what kind of threat did she impose? We don't know. Females can kill just as much as men. If she would have had a weapon on her, he didn't know that, right? But it was certainly a premeditated act where it just, it seems like he was inviting trouble in. And sometimes when you do that, you're looked at as a vigilante, maybe. And a lot of people like vigilantes. Jesse James, Billy the Kid. People love them. Who was the one that stabbed or shot the people in the sub? Bernard Getz. You know, it was a little bit before my time, but I remember that. So it's a very tough one. Although I certainly agree with the Castle Doctrine. And anybody who uses lethal force for anybody that breaks into their home, I believe in that 1,000%. But one thing I don't believe in is premeditated murder. And that's what this was to me. That's what makes this case so intriguing to me. And it's not one of those cases where you look at and just say, oh man, this guy did this to a child. You know, put him in jail for the rest of life. Death penalty, no questions asked. It's not one of those cases. It's one of those ones where inside I have like a turmoil of, ooh, I see his point, but I also see the victim's family's point as well. So it's hard for me to say, you know, with enough conviction. You hear that? Who decided to come give me a visit? Now he's looking up over the monitor. He'll walk over here, probably put his clickety-clacks. His head's going to come right here in my lap. No, there it is. Mr. Justice. He just can't be out of the limelight for, you know, more than a second. He's laid down, so hopefully you won't hear any more clickety-clacks. But right, doesn't this case give you that sense? Put yourself, see, what I like to do is put myself in both sides. Okay, put yourself in Byron Smith's shoes at age 64. You've been burglarized. These people have taken something sacred to you. Your grandfather's POW watch, taken $4,000 cash, taken a chainsaw from you. You put up surveillance cameras. You know, apparently it's not working. What are you going to do next? You know, when they come into your house, you want to catch them. So you lure them in. And it works. Here they come. They break your window in your house, which you're going to have to pay for. They're upstairs in your house while you're in the basement. And they're walking around. You can hear them. Rifling through drawers, getting stuff. And all of a sudden they start coming down into the basement where you are. You don't know whether they have a weapon. You're 64. They could hurt you. They might not even have a weapon. They could just beat you to death. You have no idea. But they're in your home. This is my castle. This is my home. This is a place where I am supposed to feel safe. And you're going to come in here, take my stuff? Not today. Shoot him. Falls down the steps. Come up over to him. Shoot him in the head. Got a problem with that last part. Just a little bit I do. I got to be honest. Go back upstairs. Now you're washing your hands, doing whatever you're doing, thinking maybe, what did I do? And all of a sudden, here comes somebody else. It's a girl. Go back downstairs. Reloading my gun. Oh my God, they're coming for me again. Sit down, wait for her. She comes down the steps. Boom, shoot her. She falls down. She's talking. Oh my God. She's still alive. But she's wounded. She's laying there. And you just keep shooting her. And she's still not dead. After you drag her body in there. So there's a little bit of time for you to think. What am I doing? Am I doing right? Boom. I think he put it under her chin. Shot her. That tells me he wanted to kill these people. He wanted to do it. So, now let's put ourselves in the victims. I'm 17-year-old Nick Brady. Hey, before we go and do this, I'm going to stop in here. I'm going to get some cash quick. Don't worry, I've done it before. It's not a big deal. It's not like I'm, getting drugs or anything like that from in here. It's just some old man. I'm getting some cash. And I go in there, and I'm looking for a way in. I can't find it, so I bust the glass. I go in. It's not that big of a deal. I've done burglaries before. Hey, nobody's here. I'm creeping around, I'm looking, nothing's going on. I start coming down the steps, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm shot. Oh my God. I fall down the steps, and I'm laying there surprised as hell, and next thing you know, my lights are out. Now, Haile's out in the vehicle, waiting. Nick ain't coming. I got to go find my cousin. So I come in there, I'm calling for him. Nick. Looking down the basement, something ain't right. Yelling for him. Nick. Boom, I'm shot. Fall down the steps. Boom, boom, boom. I'm getting called all these vulgar names. And it's just shooting me. And I'm laying there, paralyzed with not only physically, but probably mentally as well. With fear. Thinking I'm about ready to die. I get drugged into this room where I see my cousin's dead body. And then my lights are out. Just like that. All because of a decision that each party decided to make on that day. It really is a very, not fascinating case. It's disturbing for sure on a lot of levels. He has every right to protect that house and protect himself inside that house. They were committing a felony burglary. It's easy to say, I guess, when he shot them, before he shot them in the head, they were injured, he could have called police. But I don't think he's entitled to do that. He doesn't have to do that. I believe, the law states, and I think it varies from state to state, but for the most part, you have no duty to retreat in your own home. I think the moral of the story is definitely, hey, don't burglarize people's homes and expect good things to happen, right? Regardless of whether it's right or wrong. If they wouldn't have burglarized the house, you got to think about it as a snowball effect. What started this? Now, some people are going to say the victim, if he had left his vehicle in the driveway, this wouldn't have happened. So it's his fault for starting the snowball rolling. I see that. I get that. Maybe if Nicholas Brady hadn't woken up that morning and said, you know what, I need to burglarize this house, maybe that was what got the snowball rolling, right? You could look at it as the victim moving his vehicle down the driveway is not in itself a crime. We know why he did it, but it in itself is not a crime. The two victims coming in and breaking into the home, that's a crime. It's a felony crime. And like I said when I talked about Whitey Bulger the other day, and him getting killed in prison, when you play that game, you've got to expect that it could happen, something nefarious to you. You play the game. You know what I mean? You're in the mafia. You know the business. If you're a rat, you get beat with a padlock to end your life at 89 years old. Don't be surprised. You can't be surprised when you're committing a felony act of burglary that somebody could be on the other side there and take you out. That's part of you playing that game. Do I feel bad for him? Sure. Yet, I guess the majority of me says, what do you expect? As sad as that is to say, they could have grown up and done great things, but their decision on that day to break into this guy's house had huge consequences. But he's found guilty of premeditated murder. And I think it's the right decision. As much as I stand behind the Castle Doctrine and what I just said, I think the court got it right. It was premeditated. He wanted to kill those kids. And he had other options. He did. He could have called police at different times. Okay? He could have yelled out when he heard that window break. And I guarantee the kid would have fled. Again, he's got no obligation to do that. I just think it's a little overboard to execute them. Then again, if I was in his situation, I don't know. Okay, that's all. I just thought it was an interesting case. I wanted to throw it out there. A little short one, not unsolved, solved. What do you guys think? Let me know. I'll do a question and answer session on this if you want. I think it's a good case to get you thinking. Put yourself in both positions. Look at the victimology. Look at the suspectology. Look at the premeditation. And I think I've covered everything of how it could have prevented, how it could have went different. But all homicides could have went different, right? And that's what this was. It was a homicide times 2. And it should have never happened. My opinion. Hey, thanks for watching Unsolved No More. Mains out.
But I ain't got no